Alrighty. I just want to tell everybody I moved my live to Facebook. Oh, to YouTube. Okay, let's see if I can find myself now. Hi, Jean. Hi, Marlene. All right, here we go. Thank you guys for joining me. I did put a post on Facebook, so hopefully some people will be able to pop over there and join me. Hi, Lou. Yeah, let's try it here. Hopefully we'll have better luck. So we'll know within a minute because this is usually pretty quick with the following. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Barbara. Okay, so just to go back on a quick recap, we're going to make a very simple flap close treat box. So it's really, really easy to make. We're going to use Pacific Point, and then we're going to use the Snowflake, I think it's Snowflake Splendor, DSP. So I'm using one piece of paper for both sides, so it's the same paper. And I'm going to try, hopefully it'll be less buffering and craziness over here. I'm going to try to make two. So we're going to make one that's kind of like winter theme. We can also do an autumn theme. I did get out a few things to hopefully make them with, but we'll see. Glad you're back. No freezing so far. Okay, that's good news. So I did for this one get Christmas Means More because it has a lot of really fun sentiments. You could also use Don't Stop Believin'. You could also just have like something very simple, like thinking of you this season if you want to give somebody a treat. I got out stitched shapes and the stitched nested labels dies to create this. So hopefully this will be fun. Also, one other thing, now that I think about it, because I have this one handy, if you wanted to, you could even use little treats because this has a lot of really nice little sentiments in it. You could decorate it for any occasion for that one as well. So what I'm going to do without further delay is I'm going to flip you down. I have my thing all ready here to plug in. I'm going to flip you down. We're going to make this. Then we will cut another one to make a second one with. Okay. So you're going to need scissors, bone folder. You probably could use, it's failing me, Stampin' Seal. But just to be on the safe side, I like to use tear and tape because it's a little bit sturdier, but you're really only going to need that for the bottom of the box. You're not going to need it for the top because the top just folds in. One more thing I need, I forgot, is the detailed trio punch because you're going to want a corner round. It makes the flap go in a little bit easier. Otherwise than that, it's really simple. You can decorate it with any DSP, any theme. I'd use Pacific Point because I feel like I don't use that a lot. It really coordinates nicely with this paper. So I'm going to move over. If there's anything you'd like to get, you can go to my online store and shop. You can get all of the supplies that we're going to use today. I am going to use the trimmer when I trim my second piece of paper, and I'm going to use the Simply Scored to score this today because it does make it a little bit easier. So let me just scoot these off to the side so I don't have a catastrophe. And I'm going to move over my supplies, and I'm going to flip you down, and then I'm going to bring up the Simply Scored, okay? So I'm going to turn you around. Thank you guys who popped over here to watch me. I do appreciate it. So if you get a little motion sick, I'll tell you when to look back again. Okay, we're all pretty much situated, but sometimes it takes an extra minute. I know, kind of that makes me a little disheartened about this Facebook thing because the freezing is, I'm sure, as much as it is for me, because I wouldn't want to watch it, it's got to be massively annoying for you all. All right, so I'm going to plug you in so my speaker's plugged in. And make sure I have the hooked. Yep, right here. Okay. So again, I have big craft scissors and I also have my paper snips because there's little spots that sometimes I feel like I need to trim a little bit better, and sometimes these are just a little bit too big. Okay. I have my detailed trio punch. I have tear and tape. And I have my bone folder, okay? You're also going to obviously need your stylus. So to begin, and I'm going to tell you all the measurements, that way if you wanted to make this, you can make it. along with me. So this is going to measure, our piece of Pacific Point measures 7 by 10.5, okay? So we're going to start on the 7-inch side. So on the 7-inch side, you're going to score at 2 and 6. And I am going to use the bigger tip of my stylus because it gives a little bit nicer of a crease, okay? You didn't even get a Facebook note. Well, guess what? Facebook was being really pain in the hiney today, so that's why I had to move over here. So Facebook, I'm telling you, I think I might have to abandon them altogether and just find me on YouTube over at Facebook. So you're going to score at 2, and you're going to score at 6. And one other thing I want to mention, when you're doing this with the Simply Scored, if you ever have issues with using this, you can rub a piece of wax paper over your cardstock and it actually will make it slide a little bit easier. It doesn't have to be like that you're really scrubbing it in, but just kind of brush it. It makes your point slide easier on your cardstock. So just a little tip there. So now on the 10.5-inch side, and I did move the thinner score line to the top. So the 10.5-inch side, we're going to score at 2, 5, 7, and 10. Okay, so again, 2, 5, 7, and 10. On the first side, we did 2 and 6. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, if you end up that you flip it the top way and score, you're just going to have to flip your cardstock backwards because if we're being honest, you know, I try to be honest all the time. Actually, when I cut my sample the first time, I cut it upside down. So these are the ones, you want to have these flaps all on the bottom and only one here. So I goofed that up. So I'm going to show you what to do to make it pretty simple. We're going to move this out of the way. So all we're going to do now is we're going to just fold and just reinforce with our bone folder. And the reason you want to reinforce is because you really want to make sure you have crisp edges for this. And I know normally we go in like one specific pattern, but I'm kind of, the whole Facebook thing threw me off for a minute. Okay, so then this is what it's going to look like. So we're going to remove this tiny piece here and this tiny piece here. So you could either do this with your big scissors or with your paper snips. It's up to you, but I'm going to take the whole score piece off and I'm going to notch this little flap. So there's one. Notch this. And I'm trying not to cut into that. I just did. Okay, so this is going to be your flap right here. So we're going to remove the whole rest of this. Okay, so I'm just going to cut on the score line here. And then we're going to cut this whole piece. Just fold it back. Whole piece off. So what I was saying on YouTube, or sorry, on Facebook, in case you missed me there, I'm going to cut up to the score line on all 4 of these, or 3. Is I gave out a lot of Halloween treat boxes this year, which I don't normally do. So I kind of figured since I have so much stuff, so much paper, I wanted to give them out just to make it a little bit more special for people because this year is kind of stinky, as we can all probably agree. So I figured we could give out more treats. Now, I did notice here when I cut, because I used my big scissors, I didn't really cut off the top of the score line. So I'm actually going to go back and I'm going to try to be very careful. I just want to take the top of that score line off. I'm just removing that little ridge. You could do this with your trimmer if you wanted to. If you wanted to get like a little bit straighter of a line. Okay. All right, and then what I'm going to do is go in with my paper snips, and I want to keep this straight. So I'm kind of just going to even these little winged pieces. I noticed I didn't cut them as straight as I could. So I'm just going to cut off the little score line on the bigger flaps. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to miter cut the shorter flaps, just because it kind of makes them go together a little bit nicer. And if you wanted to, the other thing you can do is you can trim off a little bit of your smaller flap because you don't really need that much. It's more so the big flaps are going to make the box close at the bottom. So same thing again. This one is a little bit, got a teeny bit of hangover there. Pull this one. And this is really personal preference. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to. But I usually do miter cut the inside flaps because it kind of makes the box go together a little bit easier. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like, aside from my 2 little missy lumps here. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So basically what's going to happen is it's going to go together, and then when we fold it, this little flap's going to go down inside, okay? So you're going to need tear and tape here to hold your box together. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this on this one, and then we'll add our DSP before we go any farther. Okay, and then what is going to happen with these, this one is going to be you're going to go inside and you're going to close this way. So I'm going to put tear and tape here, and I'm going to put just a little piece on this one. So a little piece here, it doesn't have to be big. It's kind of just going to hold the one flap in, and then I'm going to put tear and tape on the front flap. Because usually you want whatever is in the front to kind of close to the back. It just makes your box look nicer. And I do hope that makes sense. So since this is the back with the flap, you fold your two sides in, and then this is your front. It makes it look really nice and square. So you want the most adhesive on this one, okay? So also, prior to putting this together, I'm going to show you one more thing. Let me just move all these out of the way. So we're going to also add our DSP, okay? So you're going to need 2 pieces for the big part, and then 2 pieces, and I just use the opposite side for the small part. Now, since this one is the back, I think I'm going to move this to the front, so it kind of brings that Pacific point. So this is your front flap. This is your back flap. Okay, so the 2 larger pieces, these 2 measure 2 7/8 by 3 7/8. Okay, and then the 2 thinner ones measure 1 7/8 by 3 7/8. So you need 2 of each. And when I cut these, because I do need to change my blade, I have that little piece that's folding the opposite way. So I just want to kind of neaten that up. So I'm going to flip these over. If you do these with liquid adhesive, which is easier because you can kind of move it around a little bit, just make sure you go to the edges, because sometimes I do forget that part and I don't go all the way to the edge, and then you have a little piece that sticks out. So we're going to just put this on the edge and a little in the center. Doesn't really need to be a lot. But I also like the fact of using the liquid glue, because if you goof it up and maybe you put it just slightly in the wrong spot, you can fix it. So I'm just going to flip these over, and they're going to fit pretty close to the edge. Same with this. Just kind of trying to make sure they line up. They're not going to ever be in a straight line again, so you really won't notice, but I want to try to make them pretty close to the same. Okay, and I'm going to give this a minute to sit, and the reason I'm going to do that is because these are going to end up bending a little bit, so you just really want to make sure that everything is pressed into place nicely. Okay, so in the meantime, what we can do is we can stamp a little sentiment. So you remember I brought over, what did I think? How about this one? We'll do the best way to spring Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear. Everybody loves Elf. That's a great movie. If you're not quoting Elf, right, then you should be worried. And just to stick with, I'm going to go with Pacific Point. You probably could also use Balmy Blue, but I feel like Pacific Point is really going to stand out. So I'm going to grab Pacific Point for the sentiment. Okay. All right, and then we have a couple other little cutie things in here. So you have the bell you could add the little holly. So we'll just add the holly, and I'm going to do that in, we'll go with Balmy Blue, because it definitely does have some Balmy Blue. So we'll just stamp this, just a little small something to add. You could probably skip this if you wanted to. Just put it up here, and maybe over there. That looks good. All right, so then, now all we have to do is figure out what we want to do. So we could die cut this with a stitched circle. That'll look cute. We could do a nested die, but I'm just going to do this one. So we'll do a stitched circle for this. Just going to pop this on my die cutting machine. Make sure it's, for the most part, pretty centered. You have better better throughput for YouTube. I know YouTube is a... Hey, Jamie, nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. YouTube does tend to have a smoother production, so I do agree with you on that. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. This is obviously the back, but I'm just saying, if we're going to put this on, maybe we'll put like a little something just to jazz it up a teeny bit. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but I really like this metallic mesh ribbon. So what if we just do like a little loop at the top and a loop at the bottom before we put this on, okay? So I'm just going to trim. That looks about good. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put this on before we put the box together. That way I can really make sure that I press it nicely. So this is the front right here, okay? So to get started, I'm going to put a little bit of Stamp and Seal. And this is going to get covered, so no worries. And we'll see, kind of if we eyeball this like so. Maybe we didn't need quite that much, but I'm going to press this down so it kind of sticks. And then we're going to add this on with some dimensionals. You could also always add some embellishments to this as well if you have any little gems that you want to add on. I know those little tiny snowflakes are always fun. A while back we even had some snowflake, as a matter of fact I sent a lot of them to my friend in North Dakota, Karen. We're just going to press this on there. But you could add like little snowflake gems on there, but I think this looks super cute. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We have everything pretty much put on the way we want. So we're going to take off our tear and tape piece on the side. I'm just going to fold this over just like that. Make sure it's squarely lined up, and then I'm going to just press this just to make sure it seals. Okay, so then we're going to close these flaps in. So I'm going to go ahead and take all this release paper off. And, oh, you know what? Real quick, before I forgot to do that. I forgot to, hold on one second. I'm going to put this on here just to make it stay for a second. I forgot to round this. You want to round this, and I should have done this before, but it's okay. It'll still work. You want to round the top of this with your, if you have the detailed trio, or if you don't, you could use a corner rounder if you have one. Only because it makes this go in a little bit easier when you're closing your flap. That's really the only reason. You could leave it square, but it goes in smoother if it has round edges, okay? So once again, we're going to close this, pull this off. Hopefully I didn't stick the wrong side. I'm going to take off my release paper here. So you're going to need a little something big. You could use like the end of your glue bottle just to press these closed. So I'm going to close the back flap here first, and then the front, just like that, okay? So I have my box in here, so you could use your bone folder. You could take your glue and just press. I think I put my glue in there a little too far now that I'm looking at it. I can't see. Yep. So you might want to put your glue, when we did it on that first flap, just put little two pieces on the side instead of in the center, because now I have glue in the middle there. But basically, you can fit a lot of stuff in here. Now, unfortunately, I've already eaten all the candy that I had upstairs, so I don't really have anything to show you at this moment, but you can fit lots of stuff in there. Then what you're going to do is you're going to squeeze these gently, just like so, and you kind of work it, but you want to make sure everything is adhered first. So squeeze them, and then you're going to give this a little press. It does take the first time, it'll take like a little bit just to smooth it in there, but let's see. This one I ripped this, cut this little piece here when I put it together, so it's being a little persnickety is a good word to use. But you squeeze it, and that's it. It closes. So if for some reason you forgot to put, oh, you're like, oh, I forgot to put such and such in. All you do is you're going to just pull the flap. Oh, Lord, please don't let this one break because I snipped it accidentally. Pull the flap. This one, when I was trimming, I cut. So I have a rip here now. So yours should not rip like that if you cut it correctly. But you're going to squeeze it. You can open it and then tuck it back in. And it's going to close up really nicely. And the nice part is it stays closed if it weren't ripped. So it does stay closed. Now, if you don't necessarily like this way and you're like, I like this, but I don't really like the flap because I have arthritis or whatever the case may be, or you just don't feel like pushing a flap in, which I get. because everybody likes different stuff. You could always use, now these are retired, but I know we had a bunch of different ones of these, and you might have some. They also might have some on Amazon, but you could use these little clips, and then you could clip it. Obviously, you would want to pick something coordinating, and you could make a little ribbon and tie it on there, and you could close it that way too. So then if that was the case, you would just completely omit that top flap. But this is also a nice way to hold it closed if you're working on maybe a bunch of them at the same time and you want to make sure they have their shape. You could put 2 of these on to kind of hold it. So then once you take them off, it's going to stay more so in that shape, but you don't need these because it does stay closed on its own. So this is cute. So there is one. And again, there's a little alternate way. So you could use those little mini binder clips if you have them. I know we used to have them in gold as well. I have a lot of the gold ones also. Okay, so now we're going to move on. We're going to make one more. So personally, since we're kind of Christmassy, I would rather make another Christmas one. But, you know, I like to please you guys. So if you're open to a different season, just let me know. I'm going to watch the comments and I will make another one. Again, they're super easy. I am going to have to choose the background paper as well. So if you have a color you want to see used, I did get out Just Jade earlier, if that sparks anybody's imagination. That's the one I cut backwards. But we have Just Jade we could do. Oh my gosh, any kind. We could make a fall one. Somebody says Thanksgiving. All right, let's do Thanksgiving. That's the first thing I saw. So what do we have left over here? Let me see. Darn. Did I use all my autumn paper? You know what? I think I moved it to a different spot. Yep. Hold please. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I know someone also asked me, so I'm going to see if I can incorporate that into this. Here it is. So this is that gilded autumn paper. So we will decorate it with that. So what if we did one, either we could do the base, and we could make this easy. We could either do the base terracotta tile. We could also do Cajun Craze. Do we have a preference on that? And then when we decorate this one, because someone asked me this not too long ago, they asked me to use the festive felt. So we're actually going to use a piece of felt for the background for this one. So it'll kind of depend on what we do. So I do see Thanksgiving. Enjoy anything. You guys are so nice. Thank you so much for saying that. And binder clips from your local office supply. Right. Or you probably could even get them on Amazon, honestly. Yeah, there's only one top flap. There you go. Would it fit in the coffee? You know what? I don't know. Do mint. Tina, you're so mean. Well, you know, I'm thinking if we do mint, mint would go nicely with espresso. So, okay, we're going to do mint. So Donna's not going to like this one, but we unmint for a lot of stuff. So let's do mint. All right, so I'm going to get out my full sheet because I have to have a full sheet for this. And we're going to cut it from the get-go. So what we'll do is we will use, let's see. How about if we use the acorns and then the other side, do I have any of the stripes left? We'll do this for the sides. Ooh, do I like that? We will go to these acorns. These acorns. And this, we'll do those two. That's going to be our paper. Okay, so to begin, let me move these two over, and then we'll do felt for our decorative portion. We're going to start, and you can just use one regular sheet of DSP. So we're going to trim this, move this over to 7 by 10.5. Okay, and I'm going to just trim up my paper really quickly. So this one is going to be 2 7/8 by 3 7/8. So 2 7/8 is going to be our width. Height is 3 7/8 for 1 and for 2. Okay, so those will be our 2 flaps. Then we will do 1 7/8 by Okay, 3 7/8 twice. Okay. Move this. Bring this back in. We're going to start with the 7-inch side, just like that. Okay, we're going to score at 2 and 6. And we're going to score at, where's my paper? 2, 5, 7, and 10. So 2, 5, 7, 10. Nice part about these is too, you could score a whole bunch of them and then just keep them flat. Like you could get them all trimmed up and everything. And I'm actually going to trim this before I fold it this time. You could get them all trimmed up and then you wouldn't have to worry about anything. You could just assemble them when you needed them. So that would be a super way to do it. Trimming this off. Okay, remember I need this flap, but the rest of them can come off. I tried my best not to cut that one this time, so hopefully it doesn't goof up. Okay, trimming. Okay, I'm going to fold these in. Trim these off. Okay, so now all we have to do is fold. I'll go ahead and do this before I forget. Okay, have both of those. So folding on all our score lines, reinforcing. Okay. Same thing again. So we have our 2 pieces are going to go on here. And then we have our 2 little pieces are going to go on here. So I'm going to make sure these kind of go, I guess, the same direction. So that looks pretty good. All right, so same thing again. And you could use the other side if you wanted to use something that had a little bit more of the bling on it. Okay, so I'm just going to flip them. You can actually see the border a little bit better when you put it on this one since it's not so much of the same color. Okay, now the only problem is I did not bring any fall greetings over here. So anything I have for fall isn't close to me. So I might have to look on that little treats thing and see if there's something there I could use. So I'm going to put tear and tape here. And what do we say? This one's going to be the back. So I'm going to put just a little piece here. Here. Probably could skip that altogether if you really wanted to. Okay, so we have this all set up. I'm going to give this a second just to let everything dry since we're going to squeeze it and put this on the side. And then how about if we do a piece of the early espresso? Let's see. I want to see if this is going to be too big or not. That's what I'm going for. This is going to be too big. You know what? It'll be felt. It'll be fine. So I'm going to do early espresso with the largest stitched circle. Then I think I'm going to do, I just want to do like a little piece of white and then we're going to do our sentiment. Let's see what works out of this one. How about, thank you for coming. We'll do that one. That one's pretty nice. Easy. Is it too small for there? Nope, that works well. And I'm going to do just a little bit to bring something else in. I'm going to do Cajun Craze for the sentiment. Looks good. We could add something else to this if you wanted to. Could add like the leaves or something, but we'll keep it simple. Move this over, put this back. So we're going to do our smallest circle for that, the largest circle for the felt, and I feel like I want something else. So I'm going to add in a little bit of DSP. And maybe for this side, because we have like no glimmer or shine. It's too much competition there. Hold on, let me look at this one other paper. We'll do this. Okay, I've made a decision. All right, so I'm going to cut these. I'm going to do 2 of these at the same time. I'm going to do the felt on its own because sometimes you have to run it through more than one time. So I'm going to do the felt by itself, and I'm going to run the second largest circle and then the sentiment circle. We'll run them through in the meantime. But these could be like little cute treats. Now that just thinking of what I stamped this for, you could give these out if you decide to have Thanksgiving at your house this year. That'll be kind of fun. Okay, so here's this. And our sentiment is there. And then we're going to put this one through. Now I'm going to do this one and I want to just show you. So I have this on my magnetic platform. But when I did this before, sometimes you have a little bit of an issue with it cutting all the way through. So normally I wouldn't do this. I normally would try to conserve it, but I'm actually going to cut it in the center because I want it to hit the bigger part of the roller. So you might want to trim yours down. That way you're not wasting these 2 sides like I am right now, but I haven't trimmed mine yet. So I'm just going to run this through and I want to see, I'm going to run it through twice and see if that does it. And then if not, we'll see how many you need to do because the felt is a little bit different. Let's see. No, actually that was perfect. So putting it in the center I think helped. So actually the nice part is it has stitching. So that's pretty cool too. Okay, so we'll put this together. So we have our stitched and then our little DSP piece and then this. So I'm going to pop both of these up. The reason I'm going to pop these up is because sometimes with the felt, it doesn't stick as exactly as you think it's going to. So let me grab my dimensionals. Put 2 on this. You could also, if you wanted to, you could cut out a circle from the foam adhesive sheets. That would make it a lot easier as well. Do that. You could add a little piece of ribbon to this whole thing if you wanted to. And you figure since you're not mailing this, if it has a lot of dimension, it's not really going to hurt it. Okay, we'll put 3 here. Now I am going to put this on after the fact. Okay, so I'm going to save that. We're going to put this together first. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove our release paper from the tear and tape. Fold it over, make sure it looks like it's lining up. I kind of like to do it both ways to make sure, and then really hit it with your bone folder just to close it. Okay, you're going to close your 2 flaps in, so you have your 2 little pieces here. Kind of hold these together. It's funny, I'm to the length now with the fingernails where they're almost too long for me. Either no fingernails are worse, and fingernails that are too long, I find like I can't grab stuff with. Okay, so then I'm going to close this. All right, so we have that. Now, before you squeeze, just make sure you press everything down. If you want something a little sturdier, again, you can always use your glue just to really press it together. okay? Then we're just going to give this a squeeze and kind of don't just crunch it all together. Kind of work with it. You know, it's got a couple layers of paper there, so you want to bend it a little bit. Nice tight squeeze. I probably could have put a little bit more glue here because this little piece is peeling up, but okay, we're going to close our flap, and I'm going to do this once just to get it ready. So then you should be able to press it, and it should go in. There you go. That's a little bit smoother. Must be because I'm right-handed. I don't push things on the left quite as hard the first time. Oh, heavens. This paper is just not liking me today. Okay. I don't know why on this one side it's giving me a hard time. I'm going to have to go back and give this another look to see. Maybe I need to trim the little teeny flap up just a smidgy. Let me try that just for a second. Because this whole piece over here is getting wonky and stupid. Let me do this. Do a little surgery. You know, sometimes you have to do a little surgery on your card. No, that's much better. Okay, so here is a nice tip to see. So when you trim up your box and you're trimming all your flaps, just trim, and this one needs a little bit, must not have put my tear and tape up quite, yeah, because of my notch there. Trim just a hair off of the side here. You could do it either before you round it. It's not really going to make a difference, but that little teeny piece is making it slide in much easier. So once I took that off, you can see it's going in much nicer. Okay, so there's that. And then I am definitely going to put liquid glue on the back of this, and I'm going to put a good amount because I want to make sure it stays. So liquid glue. I'm going to try to go all the way around the edge. I know it looks like a lot, but honestly, it's not goopy. It's just a good amount spread out pretty evenly. Where's our front? Put this here. This is a little bit crooked. Let me turn that. So now that I've fixed the flap issue, I think I probably would have put this on also just because it's liquid glue, so you could give it a nice hold before you do it, but it worked. Wonky. Yeah, wonky is a very, very good term for it. So there is our Thanksgiving version and our Christmas version. This one is the one I had the little rip in the paper, so you can see that's got a tear there. So probably if you took just a teeny hair off when you're doing that, when you're putting your layer together. So I'm going to show you on the one that's backwards. So remember, I cut this incorrectly, so you're going to look at it and it's going to look wrong. But when you have, because this technically should be your flap here. So when you have your flap, what you're going to do before you round it, so I'll go back and show you, and I mean like a hair, probably like a 1/16 of an inch, maybe. I'm going to take a 1/16 of an inch off on each one, and then you could do your corner rounder. So we'll just fold this in so you can see what I mean. Hopefully this makes sense. See, this shouldn't have all these little flaps on this side, so it's making it goofy anyway, because this is the one I cut incorrectly. There you go. So if you just shave that little bit, it should make the flap go in a little bit easier. So ignore these flaps, because it would be this one right up here, and then you'd have more flaps here. But this one I did the Rachel way, which is wrong, so I'm going to have to use this for something. But anyway, hope that helps you guys at least a little bit. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I do apologize that we had to hop from one venue to another, but thank you for those of you that popped over here with me. I'm going to have to do some further investigation, and I might have to just do my Facebook lives now on YouTube, and just do YouTube lives and notify people over there. I do post all of my Facebook lives to YouTube afterwards anyway, so anyone who may not necessarily be on Facebook, you'll always see my videos here, because you'll always see my videos here because I always post them here afterwards. And that little freeze is because my battery was dying, so that wasn't a YouTube glitch, that was just a me thing. So, great stocking stuffers, great for table settings, great for like little gifts that you want to get. You could even put gift cards in here because a gift card, and I usually have a lot of them right here. Must have put them away. Gift cards would definitely fit in here as well. So you could even put a gift card and a little bit of candy would be something nice. That way you're not just giving them a gift card in an envelope or something. Money would fit in here. You could fold a check in half and put it in as well. I just want to let them know because those are the best surprises when you think you just got candy and then you open it and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a gift card or money or whatever else is in here. So thank you guys very much for joining me today. I will, unfortunately, next Thursday, I'm getting a colonoscopy, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to go live or not. Maybe I will try to go live on Wednesday evening instead. If I went live on Thursday, it could be a doozy, so you never know. If I'm feeling better, maybe I'll do an impromptu live, but I'll try and do one at some point next week. I just don't know exactly what day, but I most definitely will try to be back next Saturday. So I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. If you missed any of my videos this week, we did a lot of really fun stuff, so make sure you go back and check them out. I do have blog posts for almost all of them. I'm still working on one. Actually, I think just today's is the only one I have to catch up on. But I will put all the measurements for this on my blog in case you missed it, so you can go ahead and make some of these yourself. And you can see one other thing. You could even store these pretty easily. So if you had a whole bunch of them layered together and you just had them filled up with stuff, you could put them on a little shelf, and that way if you needed to grab one, you could just grab it, fill it up with some stuff. So it's pretty easy just to store like this as well if you have them already made. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and I'll see you again real soon. Thanks for watching.